Hey everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for spending time with me today. Before I get started on my exploration today, I just wanted to do, it's not really a haul, it's just two things, but I wanted to show you, a friend and I went to the Amana colonies, I guess middle of Amana to be specific. They have a quilt shop there. And they were having 20% off everything in the store that day, including clearance and things previously on sale. So I got these 20 fat quarters of Cafe, I guess they call them classics, all dots. 20 fat quarters at about half price at the end of the day. I'm pretty excited about that because I'm wanting to design some fat quarter friendly quilts for my local quilt shop. They are kind enough to stock my patterns, but many of my patterns are more for pre-cuts, which is what the previous quilt shop, my local quilt shop, bought most of. But my current local quilt shop does more with fat quarters. So I was happy to find that in my next fat quarter quilt will be coming from those. Now, I also, while I was there, found some fabric by Estee McLeod, who is a wonderful painter. And here's the other side, or another of the fabrics. This is the collection is Find the Birds, I believe. And I know Estee, I've taken a class, I don't know her personally. I've taken a class from her, a painting class from her, and I adore her work. I just love it. One of my goals in life is to have one of her original paintings. I didn't even know she had a fabric line, so this was very exciting. And I only bought 2 fat quarters because I was trying to just be good. And I got home and regretted it, of course, wish I'd bought some of everything. So I think I'm going to track down a fat quarter bundle of her fabric and use that for a fat quarter quilt as well. I use this to make a project bag. And the pink dot actually goes better with the fabric on back, but the fabric on the back is what you're going to see most of because this will be filled with the project. So, made that yesterday. All right. So for today's exploration, it has been a week. I won't even go into it all, but it's been a week. And sometimes you just want to sit down and sew without doing a great deal of thinking or figuring out or following a pattern. So I want to do some work with 2.5-inch squares. Now I've done a reasonable amount with 2.5-inch squares. I think I have a playlist. If I don't, I will make one. And I will put that in the discussion area. And I still love those. I plan to do something with them, but this time all I want to do is just do 2.5-inch squares with strips in between, and so they're kind of scattered over the surface. I don't want to think really hard about it. We'll see what happens. I just want to sit down and sew, so I hope you will indulge me. I have some 2.5-inch squares. I also have quite a few 2.5-inch strips because honestly I don't do a lot with 2.5-inch strips as such. But I often will do 2.5-inch squares or subcut strips from that. So I have a lot of 2.5-inch strips, some Cafe, some Tula, and then I also have some black strips, some white strips, and of course some black and white stripe strips. So I will try to explain what I think I want to do here. I will apologize ahead of time if things seem a little choppy or my voice seems kind of froggy. We are having 4 seasons per day here at the moment. Last Monday it was 80 degrees, and when I woke up Wednesday morning, the wind chill was -10 Fahrenheit. So, and it's just kind of been like that. So my sinuses are really wacky. So I apologize for a funny voice and for choppy videos when I get too froggy and have to cut them off and start over. All right, so what I want to do is just take these 2.5-inch squares. Seem to have a lot of that one. Don't necessarily want to put those together. Look at this. We've got 2 that go together quite nicely, but they're not going to be right next to each other. In between, I want to have a strip. I think this is a 2.5-inch strip, as fate would have it. And then in between, I want white on the side, but a strip of something in the middle. And I'm thinking I might want a strip of black and white stripe in the middle, or a strip of black in the middle. I could also do a shot of black and white stripe or black in here. I don't care how long it gets in that direction or short in that direction. I'm going to try to keep consistent with 2.5 on the width. So, and they don't have to be spaced equally. So some may be spaced pretty close together and some may be further apart. Then when I put these strips together, again, it will probably be white in between. And some of them will be close together with a very narrow strip of white, filler white. And some will be a wider strip. In fact, some of them might even be angled. So this is not any great shakes in design. It's just playing with 2.5-inch squares and what I'm going to call a smattering. So they're going to be spaced unevenly around the quilt, but it's just a chance to sit down and do some sewing. So thank you for bearing with me. The first thing I'm going to do is a strip set, which I think is going to be white on either side of this, so that when I subcut it, the stripes are going to be going that way. I'll show you that in a minute if your brain doesn't wrap around that very well. And then it will just be white on either side. And later we can start playing with what I put through the middle here, if any. And it may be that I do it in some squares and not on others. We'll see. But to begin with, I'm just going to do a strip set that has white on each side, this in the middle. And if this, I have to end up with it at 2.5 inches so that it will match up with the size of the 2.5-inch square. And if I'm figuring right, I need 1.25 inch strips on either side, and then 1 inch of this in between them. If I haven't figured it right, you'll know soon enough. So either I cut badly, sewed badly, figured badly, or all of the above. I suspect it's just figured badly, given my kind of groggy brain right now. It is a little wider, but it's all right. I can trim it down. I am quite pleased with this, actually. It's not how I planned it, and of course it's not very stripy because there's not many stripes there, but I really like it. Now I could also do one, oh, I know what the problem is. It's not the problem, but it's going to be, I'm going to subcut these into 2.5-inch squares. Hang in there with me. Hang in there with me. Well, not 2.5-inch squares, but I could do 2.5-inch squares. Well, let's see what happens if I do 2.5-inch square here. Well, 2.5-inch that way anyway. And then I want to split the difference. Well, I wouldn't have to split the difference on this. I could have it equal on both sides, or sometimes I can have it wider on one side and less so on the other. But let's do this for the moment, where I'm going to have it equal on both sides. So I'm just putting the 1.25 inch in what I perceive to be the center and cutting on either side. So then we have, say, just 2.5-inch square with 2.5-inch square in between, and then we can have something longer here. And let's find another 2.5-inch square. I seem to have lots of polka dots here today, and have one further down. And if I cut a stripe the other way, and I think I will, so that it's going this direction, then, see, my brain is so clogged right now. I don't know what I'm doing. Thank you for putting up with me today. Stripes going this way, then we'll have a different effect here. Not that I'm unhappy with this one. I like this. But at some point I'm going to go down and cut a stripe going that direction. And I also want to think about, so some other things I could do would be to have this be a solid black, but again, pretend as if it's shifted so that there's some black that goes partway into here, and then this strip will move out. I can only do that if I have another one of these. If I cut this out, I would have to see, I don't want to do this figuring today. I don't know what I'm doing. So we're just going to go today with pieces going that way. And if we want something going through it at all, and then different lengths here and different pieces here. So this could be solid black. I don't want to just leave it blank with nothing there. So it could be a piece like this. It could be with stripes going the other direction, could be black. This could move over one way or the other. So we've got quite a few choices just doing this kind of thing. So I want to put together just a short piece of this and then start laying out how they might look as I start to space them out. I also have a choice. I could do these as long strips and the entire quilt would just be these long strips. I could do them as sort of blocks and further shift them around and put in white fillers as needed, or I could just make blocks out of them and maybe rotate every other block. So choices even with that. That's the nice thing about even fairly simple designs. You still have lots of choices to vary it. I really have to start making projects that don't fall off of the frame here. All right, so this is meant to be vertical. So this is like something, these are hanging on that, and then you get down and this is the bottom. So it's kind of like a beaded curtain, except that this curtain is a few beads shy of a curtain, I guess. All right, so that might be one. I might make it longer for an entire quilt, don't know. And then I could have a white strip. What have I got for white strips here? This one will do for the moment. So there would be a white strip in between, and then another piece that would have the beads, if we want to call them that. Oh shoot, there are only 4 there. I need 5, so I'm going to have to do another one up here. And then the beads on this next one will be spaced, maybe one here and one there and another one close here and there and hanging further down. So I'm just going to spread them out. So I'm going to have to make another strip of this because I need another bead at the top because I need odd numbers. It's just better visually, and I like to work with odd numbers. So I'm going to do that where I add another bead up here with more of this in between. And then for the next bead set, I think I'm going to do a solid black piece in here. So the strip will be solid black. And we'll see how that looks when it starts to come together. I might decide that I want this to be angled like that. I don't know. Actually, I would start this one off straight and the next one would probably be angled, assuming I wanted a straight side on one side of the quilt. All right, options. I'm always thinking about options, and in the meantime, I'm figuring all of that wrong. Brain fog today. I'm off to do that. We'll come back, see how it looks. I'm coming back to try to redeem myself because I did, in fact, do the calculations correctly when I did this. It's 1 1/4 inch cut for each of these whites, and then 1 inch in between. I started off with 1.5 inch strips, and I thought 1 1/4, but I never cut these down to 1 1/4. So, phew. All right, so now this entire strip is ready. The next one, I will proceed with 1 1/4 inch strips of white on either side and a 1 inch strip that's cutting in the middle. And once I do some of that, we'll come back. I keep saying that, and then I keep coming back earlier. And you will notice that although I very often, usually, work in solids, I am working in prints today because I know many of you prefer prints. You get a little tired of the solids. And I have all of these print 2.5 inch strips here. So this is for you, print lovers. Here's the second one, and I put 7, I'm going to call them beads on here for lack of a better name for them, squares. And I like this alternating that. I might on a third one, as I said, cut this stripe differently so it goes the other direction. But for now, I want to think about what goes in between. I was also thinking as I was doing this, it would be kind of fun to have maybe just a short one, not one of the really long ones, but a short one that's kind of crooked so that that center strip goes this way. I think that might be kind of a fun, funky little thing to do. And now we would think about putting a white strip in between here, all the way down, of course. And I think I do like alternating with this. I would have to see what one looks like with the stripe going the other direction, but I think I like this. I'm going to sew a strip in between these two, and then I will take the final photo out where I have space to show you the whole thing, and we'll see where we're at. And so here is our finished bead curtain, such as it is so far. I very much like this split, a sort of a stripe on this side, but I also like the contrast of the solid black, so I think alternating them in some fashion, not necessarily 2 by 2, but I really like that. And I actually think this may be looking better than I had imagined it, which, hey, I'll take that any day. I think that's it for this week. Next week, maybe I'll do some more of this with a couple of quirks thrown in because I like quirky. Or maybe we'll do something totally different as usual. I have no idea. In any case, I hope I will see you then. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.